Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and today we're going to talk about how to set your chart up to figure out kind of what's going on. The bias at this point is down. Notice this big move down into this trading range. So the bias is down, but currently notice how prices are swinging to both sides of the EMA there, and the EMA is kind of flat. Well, this is a trading range. And so when I come in, I'll look at this, and and my point of view is, before I start trading, that I'm thinking, okay, the bias at this point is down, but it's a trading range day, but I still have a downward bias at this point. Now, if we start trending up and head back up, I may change that bias, but for now, I've got a downward bias, and it's a trading range day. So let's go ahead and set up our chart. The first thing I'm going to do is look and see, hey, we got strong support down here. Let's put us a support line across here. See where we get the most touches. I'm going to call it maybe right there. And that's kind of the lows of the day. Let's copy that, paste it, and this is kind of the highs up here. So I want to be aware of this level when prices come back up here later, and we probably need to just extend this on out a little bit. And so that's what I'm looking at. Let me do this. Sometimes it's hard to get those lines parallel. That's probably it right there. But also short term, let's see what our trend line looks like. We'll start out drawing off those first couple of swings right there, and you see in that catches right there. It's probably more like the closes right there, and you can see we got a break and then a move to a new low, and now we're doing our little correction phase. And the correction doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a trend in the other way. This is good enough for a correction. It usually lasts about an hour or so. So this correction started about 8 and it's about 9. So we've had more than an hour of correction. So we've met our criteria for that trend line break and new low. So we could actually make another trend down. And I actually see, it looks like we probably got a little bit of a downward channel maybe working here. We'll see if this holds up. You don't know, but this is just all stuff that I'm seeing today, and you see that kind of fits on the low side. So that's what we're looking at for now, and we still got a downward bias. You got to be careful getting short way down here. Again, I think I wanted that right there, and this has kind of moved up a little right here basically. This may continue to move up and become higher as the day goes on, but you always want to continue to be aware of this level right here. And we'll just take this on out a little further here as well. And so that's what we're looking at. And you just had a second entry short there. It's not a great setup really. But we just came off the high side, so we're probably headed. There's probably even like a median line in here. You can see that right there. So it's kind of a midpoint between the two lines. So you probably got to be aware of that as well. It's not as important as the two exterior ones, but you got to still pay attention to it. And so that's how I set up my chart. That's what I'm looking at. Until we get a change, if something changes, that's what I'm looking at. And that's how I'm going to, but that's what I do each morning when I come in. When I first started, if you get here before 8:30, it's probably going to look more like that right there. But you can see that you still get the same thing. You still, looks like a trading range right in here. You don't have as many swings to both sides, and you probably wouldn't be able to get that. Well, you still could get that channel most likely right there, because you've got, if you just run it off those closes down there, and you can see how we bounced off of it, and you drag it up here to the top. So you could have had that in place before that got there, and that would have been a good sign maybe that, hey, we might turn down right there, especially with that big bearish reversal bar. So that's what I do each day. And so I've got my high for the day, I've got my low for the day. There's an overnight gap here too. I talk about those a lot, but notice that the market opened. Let me show you where the 830. Let's find the exact bar. It's right in here somewhere. Yep, there's the bar where the market opened. So let's move. Was that it right there? Yep. So when the market opened, that's all we could see right there. But notice from where the market closed yesterday to where it opened here at 8:30, you can't, because I'm looking at a 24-hour chart, you don't see the gap, but there's a gap between there that people that only trade the regular hour chart see. And generally those gaps get filled, so there's a good chance we may try to fill that gap today. And just like yesterday, we opened up, I believe it was yesterday, or was it Monday that Monday we had a gap, and it was even a gap in the overnight, and you see we worked and worked to close that, and we finally closed it yesterday afternoon. Notice where that gap was, right there at 1685. If I just move that across, we filled that yesterday afternoon, or yesterday morning around 9:40, 10 o'clock my time, and so now we got another gap, and at some point we'll try to fill that, probably today, and we'll just have to wait and see. And you can see prices are chopping around. It's really choppy. This is where you got to be really careful entering. You're better off just to sit tight and wait for something to happen. That's when most people make their mistakes. They get antsy. They sit here and they watch this for an hour, and they just can't take it, and eventually they enter a trade and they enter the wrong way, and they get stuck in this stuff and they get burned. And so just be patient, wait on something to happen. And the odds were we were going to go lower. I told you that a minute ago, and you see we're still trying to work lower. And the only reason I knew, I say that is because we just come off the high side of the range, and so now we're going to work down to the low side, and that's the way prices work. They're always heading somewhere. And people will tell you the markets are random, and to a degree they're random in between going where they're headed, but prices are always headed somewhere with a purpose. And if you can understand that and learn how to figure out where it's headed, nothing's 100%. Things change on a dime, but prices are headed somewhere. Right now they're headed down here to test this support and probably even this support. And if they can do that, then something will probably happen down here from there. We'll either test that and get through and continue lower down here to test this line, or if they can't get through, then they'll head back up and test this one again, and they'll just keep testing. And what they're doing, what prices are doing, is they're testing support and resistance to try, and eventually they'll get through there. And if they don't, they turn and go the other way. So prices were coming down here. They found support. They've tested it several times. They tried to go higher, but they can't take it higher either. So they'll keep going back and forth and testing here until they finally get through, and then they'll head to another, and then they'll be seeking out the next. If they get through here, they're probably coming back to test this breakout area here, and if they get through that, they're going to probably test these highs up here. And that's what prices do. They're constantly seeking out, and you see we came down here, and now we found, temporarily at least, we're finding support there. It wouldn't surprise me if we don't get on through and come down and test this line down here. You just have to be patient, but just like I said a while ago, we just come off this high side and we were working down, and I guarantee a lot of people were probably thinking we're going to try to get long here, but really you got to know that prices are probably coming to test this line. If they get through there, they're going to test the next place. And right now they got through this strong support, so they're going to try to bring it down here and test this. Wouldn't surprise me if we come back and test this area here to see if it's going to still hold as resistance now, because it was support. If it holds as resistance, but I'm guessing we're probably going to go on down and test this line here, and we could go right through that and keep going lower. But the odds are you'll probably find some support here, and we'll get a short-term correction or something. And that's the way prices work. And so that's how I come in and set my chart up every day. And you could see by how I drew my chart that you would have had a good idea. You don't know for certain, but you just have to, you're trying to read what prices are telling you. Prices were telling me that we were going to start working lower because we just come off the high side, so we're going to start working lower to try to find the next support area. that'll hold, and then we may either go into another trading range, or we may start trending down again. So I hope all that makes sense, but that's how I come in and set up my chart every day. And you know, if you go over here to yesterday, it was kind of the same thing. We're in a trading range. So when I came in yesterday, if I get here at 7 o'clock, that's about what I saw. It's obvious that's a trading range. And I just come in and I draw my 2 lines. I find my highs. Copy that. Paste. I find my lows, and there's what you had at that point. And you actually probably had a short-term trend line working down through here like so. Notice you got the break there and then the retest with a new low, and then guess what? It goes to the other side, and guess where it's headed? It's headed up here to try to test this upper part. And you could probably get your trend line here. It's probably going to be like that right there maybe, and you get to break and you get a new high, and guess what? It heads the other. It couldn't get up there, so that's not a good sign. So, but you know now it's probably headed back down to test the lows again, and you probably would have even moved that down a little bit. And guess what? It couldn't get to the low, and it ended up going back up to the upper side. And it went on through, and then you're going to look for a measured move about that size right there. Let's measure this. Put that up there, and you see we already got that almost to the tick. And then it comes back down, and it's probably going to come back and test this. This was resistance. Now it's going to come back and see if it'll act as support. If it does, it'll probably go higher. If not, it'll go lower. And then it holds and it goes higher back up to this side, and it gets through there, and then the day's over. And then we start today, and you can see where we found support right down here off that line like you would expect. And you could actually even go long right there if you want to be real aggressive. But the bias is down, so we're mostly only entering selling. And if you try to buy here, you may get burned. And so you're better off to stick with the bias and only sell until that bias changes. So I hope all that makes sense, but that's how you start your day. You come in, you try to figure out what's going on, and you try to find the lines the best you can. And you know, you may have to adjust this stuff. Like I said, when I first came in that morning, I had it right here, and then it kind of moved down a little bit to there. And what I try to do with these lines is find the most touches, but also the closes as well. And you can see there by using the closes, I get the most touches right there. And then it kind of moved, it really kind of moved down to right in there. And when it came back, look where it tested before it went higher. So it kind of changes as the day goes on. Then it may have even moved down to right there. But really, this right here is what I would call your range. And then of course we measured that, and this went a perfect measured move to the next side. And that's how you find your highs and lows and where prices are probably going to. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up, but that's how you you come in and prepare your chart, prepare them for the day's trading. And so watch this video a few times if you need to get the hang of it. But that's what I do each day, and that's how I get my day started. And all of this will come to you. You'll get better at it with experience. I can glance at this chart in just a second. I could tell you that this was a trading range when I came in this morning. And the first clue is that when you see prices swinging on to both sides of the EMA and not staying on one side or the other, notice how on a trend, notice here, this is a trend, and notice how prices are continually mostly below the EMA. And when they're swinging to both sides like they're starting to do here, then you're kind of in a range. Let me find another good trend. Here's one right here. Notice how prices are coming down and they're mostly all below the EMA. That's a downtrend. And then you're headed up and prices are mostly above the EMA. That's an uptrend. And so use that clue. And when I came in, this morning, you could see prices, even though we got a downward bias because of that big move down, And so, and I say that because we traded down into this trading range. If we'd have traded up into this trading range, we'd have an upward bias. But we traded down into it, so we've got a downward bias. And that could change, but as of now, you can see we're in this downward channel. This is like a spiking channel. And we may stay in this channel and trade down all day long. I don't know, or we could work out of here, find a strong support, and we could start trending up. But for now, you got to go with what you're seeing. And so I hope that makes sense to you. But come in, figure out your bias, figure out what prices are doing, try to find your trend lines, try to find your channels, try to find your strong support and resistance. Usually your overnight high and your low are going to be important areas. There's actually to help you with this, there's actually, let me show you, it's called current day open high low. And I like to plot current value only so you get straight lines, so it's not all over your chart. And just apply that and hit OK, and I'll show you. And it automatically plots your high, your low, and see it's moved now. But this, if I'd have done that when I came in this morning, it would have showed that low right there. And so now it shows your high and your low, and this yellow is where it closed yesterday or opened yesterday. And so that's going to show you your gap between, that's point is your gap from where it opened at 8:30 this morning. And so it shows you all that with just an indicator. So use that indicator if that helps you till you get used to seeing it. I don't. It kind of clutters up my chart. I like to draw my own type lines that I'm familiar with, and so I don't use that as much. Every now and then I'll put it on my chart, but it's worth showing it to you just so you can see it. And it, people that aren't used to looking at the chart every day and just spotting it automatically, it'll show you the high, the low, and where the gap would be. And if prices have not touched that yellow line between the 8:30 open and there's a gap there, and so there's a good chance prices could work there. And notice how we're still going lower here, and that was why I was saying the bias. You could have gone long right there, but you wouldn't have got out, and it's turned back down. So that's why we don't like to counter trend trade. There's too big an opportunity to get burned. You got to wait on a trap or something if you want to counter trend trade, and then you're still better to stay with a bias, and the bias is down. Although we do know there's a good chance we're going to bounce off of this line. We could get through that line and continue to go further, but you're going to at least probably find resistance or support right there, rather I should say, not resistance. And hope that makes sense to you. I hope this video was helpful to you. And watch it a few times if you need to. Come back and review it again. All these videos that we're going to have in the members section, I encourage you to view them more than once, because every time you watch it, you may pick up some small tidbit that you missed the first time. There's just a lot of information. There's so much to learn with price action. It's not hard at all, but there's a lot to learn, and it takes a long time. The real hard part is just getting the screen experience. That's what's so hard, because it takes a long time. And I'll tell you, I've got thousands and thousands of hours of sitting here watching prices print to this chart over and over and over every day for a few years, multiple years. And so it's thousands and thousands of hours. And if you don't think that's a benefit that gives me an advantage over somebody that's only been watching these charts for a few months, then you got a lot to learn. And that's why it's so hard. That's why somebody just can't walk in off the street and start making money as a trader, because there's so many people that have so much more experience than them, and prices do not follow common sense. Common sense tells you to sell while it's coming down and to buy when it's going up, and that's exact opposite. You got to learn to find, of course, when it's trending this hard, you're looking for reasons to go short, but only on bounces that are going up. And most people are thinking when it's starting to go up on these bounces that they're going to buy, and they get caught in it, and it goes right back down again. The trend takes precedence, or gives you the bias for the day. So keep that in mind. But I'm going to wrap this video up. Again, watch it a few times if you need to. Come back and review it from time to time. If you start having trouble figuring out what's going on in the mornings, this is how I do it. So, but this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.